Good morning, good day, or good afternoon, or possibly good evening for those of you that are joining us from other parts of the world. My name is Aida Araissi. I'm the CEO of the Bilateral Chamber, and we're so pleased to connect with you all on another iteration of our Ambassador Series, Guyana. We have been focused on this very exciting market for a little over 3 years and are very pleased to be working closely with the U.S. Embassy and the commercial service team in providing a platform to showcase the market, the opportunities, the challenges. So thank you all for taking the time to join us today. This series of events is brought to you by some very hardworking task force members on Guyana. And so I do want to give a little shout out to them. I believe you can see them on the screen. I really thank them for their hard work and their commitment. And we have a lot of great outcomes from our work. And this week, in fact, there will be a direct air service begun from the city of Houston into Guyana, which adds, to Miami and Newark. And so we really are very pleased to see even more of that. So today, the Ambassador Nicole Theriot is going to be giving us a lot of content and a lot of ideas. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She was confirmed by the U.S. Senate in July of 2023 as the ambassador to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. She has an incredible background, served as consul general at the U.S. Consulate in Pakistan, also as deputy chief of mission in the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. She served as a director of immigration and visa security at the U.S. National Security Council and was the senior advisor to the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Overseas Citizen Services. She was a political counselor at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Casablanca, supervisory regional consular office assisting 102 consular sections. And actually, I could go on and on. A really tremendous global career. So, Ambassador, thank you for taking the time to join and share your insights today.
Thank you so much, Aida. It's truly my pleasure to be here. And I actually also have with me today the true expert, which is Daniel Gaines, our senior commercial officer with our foreign commercial section here at the embassy. But really looking forward to answering your questions and providing all the information that I can. I know we have an ambitious agenda today, but very, very happy to jump in. So I'll turn it back over to you, Aida. Thank you.
All right. So I guess, Ambassador, this is a country that more and more people are hearing about. And from your perspective, as you kind of jumped into the fire, so to speak, in terms of the activity, what does it look like from your side as to what is going on? What are the opportunities? Just a snapshot of that.
Absolutely. Very, very happy to address that. Overall, for this bilateral relationship, we are extremely happy to be Guyana's preferred partner during this time of incredible transformational growth. We all know that the private sector is the engine of growth, and that by partnering with U.S. companies, Guyana will receive world-class products and services that meet the highest international standards. Guyana knows this too. In fact, government leadership shared with us recently during a high-level Washington visit that they've begun writing into all government tenders that the winning company must use equipment that meets U.S. or EU standards. As the government's wealth is increasing due to oil and gas, they've begun to demand better for the people of Guyana. And that is exactly what U.S. companies are delivering. President Ali's current focus is on attracting more small and medium-sized U.S. companies to Guyana. He shared this on Friday at the launch of the partnership between U.S. education company Coursera and the Guyanese government. And he mentioned it again Monday night at a dinner he hosted for former U.S. President Bill Clinton. The bottom line is that the door is wide open for U.S. businesses of every size and sector to come to Guyana and get involved in its transformational development, which will truly be a win for everyone. And I am definitely seeing U.S. companies heeding that call. Our embassy receives inquiries every single day from US companies seeking to enter the Guyanese market. And it's not just in oil and gas. In fact, it is everything from agricultural machinery to cosmetics to housing to transportation, infrastructure, tech firms, and more. On Tuesday, I met with a world-class US healthcare company that is helping the Guyanese Ministry of Health transform and modernize Guyana's healthcare system. Also on Tuesday, we supported at a regional forum a US company delivering specialized and integrated hydrocarbon solutions to the energy industry. And that's just this week. But make no mistake, companies from all over the world are rushing to get a piece of the action here in Guyana. My British, EU, Canadian, Indian counterparts are also busy hosting trade delegations and fielding inquiries. So while the door is wide open, there's a lot of competition to get through it. And lastly, on this, I'll just say that while there are, of course, malign actors seeking to disrupt the global marketplace, I remain confident and optimistic. And our embassy remains focused on promoting sound policies and strong business linkages that will ensure greater growth for both of our countries. For example, Government of Guyana leadership has assured me that they will be passing legislation before August that will allow for foreign private equity firms to operate in Guyana. And they're working on other ways to allow for financing of major projects, such as critical infrastructure. So there really is plenty of reason for optimism here in Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting the opportunities, and it's very interesting to hear that former President Clinton was there. I understand last summer, former Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, was there. The Emiratis have been there. The Qataris, I think the Emir touched down. What do you think is the reason why this little country all of a sudden has the attention really of the world?
800,000 population. I mean, it's a very small country. Just a few short years ago, it was the third poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. But everything has changed now. I think there are two reasons. One is the obvious reason, oil and gas, which has made Guyana the fastest growing economy in the world. Just an absolutely incredible transformation over a very short period of time. But the other reason is, quite frankly, the incredible activism and outreach of this government. The Guyanese government right now, led by President Irfan Ali, is over the top active in reaching out to the Arab countries. President Ali, of course, is a Muslim, and he uses that affinity to draw in some of the bigger Muslim countries that have a lot of experience in oil and gas. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE are all establishing embassies here within the next year, as is France, by the way. So you are absolutely right. Everybody is interested in Guyana. And I just think it's, quite simply because of their activism in, bringing in these these international companies and governments, but it's also just the opportunities are incredible. And, one thing that everyone talks about when it comes to Guyana is, the resource curse. And that is a very real thing. And me and my colleagues in the diplomatic corps are keeping a very close eye on that. So that's something that, don't worry, we are all focusing on. It's always in the back of our heads whenever we're dealing with the Guyanese economy and diversification of the economy here. Thank you.
So given the world's attention on Guyana and the opportunities that we know are going on there for not just oil and gas, so apparently everything from their water resources to their forestry, all that, they're really blessed with a lot of minerals and riches. What do you make of what we've been hearing about Venezuela's I wouldn't call aspirations to the border dispute? What is the US's position on that issue?
I'm really glad that you asked that, because that is obviously that is one of the impediments to attracting foreign investors and foreign companies to Guyana. I would say that Guyana is definitely open for business to enterprising companies that are looking for great opportunities. The U.S. continues to value and invest in its relationship with Guyana, and we certainly hope U.S. companies will do the same. As you know, Venezuela continues to threaten Guyana's sovereignty in small but concerning ways. In fact, just in the last couple of days, they sent a ship into the EEZ, the Exclusive Economic Zone, and it just kind of meandered around and then turned around and went back to Venezuela. It's like they're kind of testing the waters and they're seeing what they can get away with, and that is concerning. And we're keeping a very close eye on that, and of course sharing all of the information we're receiving and we're observing with the Guyanese Defense Force and Guyanese police. Of course, Venezuela is set to hold elections this year. So we truly feel, and all of our very big brain analysts back in Washington feel, that this noise and posturing that you're seeing and hearing from Venezuela is simply intended to distract and draw attention from Venezuela's dire economic and domestic situation. We truly believe that. We, as the US government, continue to watch this very, very closely. And we are considering our options carefully. If Venezuela continues on its current trajectory of refusing to allow qualified opposition candidates to register for the election, they will have clearly fallen short of their commitments made in Bridgetown, and this will lead us to have to make take necessary and appropriate action, whatever that may look like. And of course, those options are being considered by the White House as we speak. But for all intents and purposes, there's been a pause in hostilities between Guyana and Venezuela since the Argyle Agreement signed in St. Vincent back in December. The foreign ministers of Venezuela and Guyana met again in Brasilia in mid-February, and Presidents Ali and Maduro are slated to meet at the end of this month, which is, I guess, now, or early in April, also in Brazil. One very smart thing that President Ali has done is he's continued to grow and strengthen Guyana's relationship with Brazil and President Lula personally, which is critically important in keeping Venezuela in check. So in short, Venezuela continues to periodically rattle its sabers vis-a-vis Guyana for domestic political gain, but the U.S. stands as Guyana's steadfast partner, and it's continually working to help enhance their capabilities, both through U.S. government and U.S. private sector. I firmly believe that the Venezuela situation should not be an impediment to any U.S. company wishing to work in or with Guyana. If the massive influx of high-level U.S. government visitors we are seeing here is any indication, Guyana is one of the hottest places in the world to be right now. And we don't see any reason why U.S. companies should be deterred from investing or establishing business here. Thanks.
Thank you. So that's really encouraging and good to know. Now we've brought 3 delegations to Guyana, and there have been some challenges. There have been companies that have set up local offices, and we know it takes a cycle of 2 to 3 years to really get your footing. But what would you say are some of the challenges that companies should be aware of in terms of expectations? It's not that you hit the ground and then boom, you're going to find immediate success. What would be your advice to companies interested in this market?
So I wish I could tell you that everything's perfect and everything's smooth and easy and you're not going to run into any impediments, but that's just simply not the case. So we'll start with the good news, which I think you all know: world's fastest growing economy, GDP growth of 38% last year, continued growth is predicted for this year. And we greatly value being Guyana's top trade and investment partner. And our bilateral trade continues to grow. Last year, it reached 4.6 billion. Much of this trade, of course, is currently dominated by the energy sector, but there are many opportunities in other industries and for companies of all sizes. In 2021, we saw 2,735 U.S. companies export to Guyana, with 81% of them being SMEs. And of course, as previously mentioned, there are opportunities in multiple sectors, and our Foreign Commercial Service, who you'll hear from shortly, works really hard to find U.S. companies, reputable, reliable local partners here that will help them export to the market. We really encourage policymakers and the business community in Guyana to focus on diversification of the economy and also ensuring that people from all backgrounds can take part in the economy. And they've really taken that message to heart. The government is investing in education and technical skills training centers all around the country. And major US companies are providing much of the funding through their outstanding CSR efforts. Now to the other side. We've also communicated clearly to the government here on many occasions that we want to see greater transparency and efficiency in processes to improve the ease of doing business. There are quite a few different types of non-tariff barriers, ranging from the time required to obtain licenses or open a bank account to the customs procedures. There is a single window being established for the construction sector to streamline inter-ministry processes, but we've recommended they explore a single trade window that moves processes online and assists customs and the relevant ministries that are clearing on the imports and exports. I also often hear from US companies here about taxation issues as a source of uncertainty. And there is definitely a desire within the private sector for a bilateral tax treaty. We've raised this issue with the government at many different levels, and I really do encourage the Guyanese private sector to do the same, since it's going to require some new legislation. This is definitely an issue I would also like US companies to raise directly with President Ali when the opportunity arises. I've certainly raised it, but I think it will help to hear directly from US companies that meet with the president, because he is so forward leaning and so focused on bringing in more US companies. So the more he hears that from us and our companies, the better it will be. What would also be a big win would be a modernized tender process that includes online submission of digital documents and oversight contracts for all of the major public works projects. That would certainly benefit both Guyanese and international companies. Other issues affecting the Guyanese economy, government bandwidth. There are a very few people doing all the work. They just don't have a big enough bench to handle what's happening here. So what ends up happening is, as in a lot of places, is that the people who are good and do great work get all the work. So they really need to work on expanding their bench, if you will. Also, the marketplace's capacity to absorb new products. I mean, it's 800,000 people, so that's something to consider. And one really big issue is access to finance for local firms. Guyana is also experiencing a pretty severe labor shortage, and land, particularly land that has been cleared for development, can be really expensive. The government is absolutely thinking about all of these things, including new immigration policies to address the labor shortage, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And for Guyanese companies that might be tuning in, I want to highlight that the US is, of course, the world's largest and most open marketplace. And we certainly encourage Guyanese business people to take advantage of that openness. In fact, Guyanese products enjoy a 0 or reduced tariff to the United States via the Caribbean Basin Initiative. So I would encourage the government and business associations to explore ways to leverage that preferential access. And lastly, also for Guyanese producers looking at US markets, I would say it's really important that you meet US health and safety standards, and that can be a lengthy process. So always a good idea, if you're looking at that, to maybe identify an external consultant or a business association that can assist. I know we have some Guyanese companies on today, so I didn't want to leave them out. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a couple of questions in the chat in the Q&A, and I think you kind of answered both of them, but let me read one of them out, and I again, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. So that if the government of Guyana plans to enact legislation to enhance the ability of businesses such as equity groups to invest in Guyana, because there's no tax treaty between the US and Guyana, Is the government also considering enacting legislation to change the corporate withholding tax regime to eliminate the double taxation issue for the repatriation of revenue, dividends, or profits from Guyana to the U.S.? So are they actively, do they understand that issue? And you already said that we need to do more to communicate that to them, but is it on their agenda?
We have brought this to their attention on multiple occasions, as have the U.S. companies here, including the big U.S. companies. So they are very aware of it. I think this comes back to that issue of bandwidth. They have so much to do all at once. It is absolutely overwhelming. And I keep trying to remind them, and I know the US companies do as well, is you don't want to lose these opportunities. Your president keeps saying, you want more US companies here. These are impediments. Help us with that. I think it's just, quite honestly, it's not a will. I think they would like to make all these changes. It's just a matter of bandwidth and their ability to work on these issues all at once. But we will continue to raise them. I do encourage US companies to continue to do that as well. Organizations like yours, bilateral chambers, you wield quite a lot of power. So that's something I think that would also be useful. They need to hear it from all of us. And I do think that is a change we could get them to implement. We just have to continually bring it to the top, to their attention.
I believe it was last year that we heard some encouraging announcements from Exim Bank on some funding available. And then we started hearing that it seemed like there wasn't a lot of release of those funds to particular projects. Are you seeing some progress in that and the accessibility to Exim from either US companies in partnership with Guyanese partners? What is the status of the Exim projects?
Daniel could speak to this better for sure, but to my knowledge, I think it was only one project that was currently slated for XM funding. It is moving forward. We're still waiting for the Guyanese government to provide some additional information that is required before that project funding can go up for a vote before the XM board. So that is in process, and the ball is quite firmly in Guyana's court at this moment. But there is absolutely XM funding available for U.S. companies. Everything doesn't have to be $700 million. It could be a couple $1,000,000. I know there are some Guyanese companies that are currently looking at XM funding. Obviously, we have very rigorous requirements that have to be met, but that would be true of any international funding. Not to take the emphasis off the United States, but I do want to throw out there that the UK government actually just a couple weeks ago increased their funding, basically their Exim Bank. They went from, I believe it was 800,000 British pounds to 2.1 billion with a B funding available for projects in Guyana. And that is open to US companies. That is open to Guyanese companies. Obviously, you have to meet the requirements, which are very similar to RXM, but that is a massive amount of money that is now available for funding of projects here. I think one of the projects they're already considering is the bridge between Suriname and Guyana, but that's the sort of thing that they are looking to finance. So something to think about.
Are there still opportunities for companies to approach or bid on the airport development? Is there still an opportunity for work with the port? Do you know what the status is of the port project or the airport, redevelopment?
I will definitely ask Daniel to jump in on this one. I know that the airport project that was being done by a Chinese company, a PRC company, is very, very delayed. But I know that they're looking to do more. I'm not sure, however, where the process is in terms of the tender and awarding those contracts. So Daniel, do you want to jump in here?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ambassador. Before I get to the tenders, I'll just augment on the XM points. In 2022, XM signed an MOU with Guyana worth $2 billion. That is for large kind of government to government projects. And so the government of Guyana's position is they want to see this first gas to energy project cross the finish line with XM before they start to leverage the additional funds that are available. That doesn't even, so the 2 billion, those for large government contracts. A private, U.S. company can tap into XM for their specific transactions at any time. And so we encourage U.S. companies to do that because it makes you more competitive here by offering better terms to your Guyanese partner. So take advantage of that. When it comes to some of the larger tenders, the port, I haven't seen an RFP or an RFI for the port. It is of interest, and I know that the government, they're very open to receiving unsolicited proposals. So companies that have experience in ports, happy to have our conversation with you guys and hopefully steer you in the right direction for that. And for the airport, I think it will be a bit more of an iterative process, simply because there was an award that was given out, but because things have dragged on, I think we'll be keen to see if new opportunities come up in that space.
Thank you, Daniel. And can you give us a little bit more from the commercial service side on, how much activity that you're seeing and where you're suggesting and directing folks concentrate?
Absolutely. And so I'll touch on a few things, and then because I know we want to have some Q&A. For those who I haven't been able to meet yet, I'm Daniel Gaines. I'm the commercial officer here in the embassy. We're the export promotion arm of the U.S. government. I'll put it in 3 buckets. One being some of the realities on the ground, and the ambassador covered most of them. The second will be areas in which we see U.S. companies being competitive, and that's kind of what you were asking, Aida. And then number 3 will be next steps that you can consider. So just to hammer home what the ambassador was mentioning about the business community's absorption capacity, because of the limited amount of buyers here and the limited amount of business people here, you really need to be focused on what's my value proposition, what makes me different, not only from non-US companies competing, but your fellow US companies competing. Because I'll give you an example. There is one sector here that's a really promising sector, but there are really only 4 or 5, really established companies to compete. So if they're receiving multiple opportunities, you've got to stand out. So that's a big one. And the second thing is managing your expectation as a company and using your resources. You can't come down here and just have a day's worth of meetings and go back and think that's going to be it. Time is very fluid here. There's so much activity pulling people in different directions. You've got to come time and again and make sure you're top of mind and moving your relationship forward. So that complements what the ambassador says. On the opportunities, man, there's so many areas where we see U.S. companies being competitive, not only in the export space, but also in the investment space where it makes sense. And so, everything from, of course, the energy sector, that entire value chain is great for exporters as well as those looking to invest and open up shop to service that industry. Tremendous opportunity. Infrastructure, when you land in Georgetown and you come into the city, you see earth moving equipment everywhere. So infrastructure from roads, bridges, we mentioned the port as an opportunity, but then hotels and hospitals are being built. So the actual construction of those buildings is an opportunity. And then everything that goes into those buildings, from your medical devices, furniture, you name it, opportunities there. Building a bridge from building the hotel to other opportunities in healthcare, big push on digitization. The country is moving from a paper-based, a lot of paper-based processes to more online. That's the right direction to go. U.S. companies have great expertise in that. In the agriculture sector, which is an incredibly important sector here, everything from your equipment to storage to processing are opportunities there. And if you're looking to invest, there are opportunities for the agricultural production of food and that value chain going to value-added food products. and looking at it not only for the Guyanese market, but using Guyana as a springboard into the rest of the Caribbean, where you can get preferential rates from CARICOM members. I'd also mention the leisure industry. So that's kind of a large umbrella that I call everything from tourism to entertainment options to franchising opportunities. There's a lot of great opportunities here in the leisure aspect. And again, tourism is a wonderful thing to consider for investments. So the infrastructure needed to get around, ground infrastructure, air infrastructure, hotels, boutique, eco-tourist lodges. We do it so well in the US. I think you can come here and really make a difference. We have a great partner for the companies that are interested in actually setting up operations here. Go Invest, which is a part of the Guyanese government. They're a great sounding board and also can kind of serve as a Sherpa for you and navigating the Guyanese market. So encourage you to look into that. We have so many private equity interests as well. So if they're sitting on dry powder and looking to move it, investing in companies or industry, we've had 3 delegations in the last 4 weeks. And then we have another one coming in mid-April. So as you can see, there's opportunities for the exporter looking to provide their service or good with a local partner, or those looking to actually physically enter the marketplace. And we want to be a sounding board and also leverage to help you do that. And so to land the plane and turn it back over to you, Aida, the next step is to go look at our website, trade.gov/Guyana. You're going to see what we have. It's a country commercial guide. That's your A to Z for doing business in Guyana. And then I know our economic section here in the embassy, they're finishing up the updated investment climate statement. So those that looking to make investments refer to that. And then once you digest some of that information, contact your local export assistance center. They're in over 100 US cities. They'll help you not only here in Guyana by working with me and the team, but in markets across the world. So please leverage us, and we think this opportunity is really exciting down here in Guyana. Aida?
That's great. That's great, as usual. Very good. And we'll include a link to that when we send out a post webinar communique. I would like to ask the ambassador something that sometimes people find interesting, given where Guyana is geographically in what is South America. However, Guyana is part of CARICOM. What does that mean exactly? Why is that? And what are the benefits to that?
I have never been asked that question before. That's really interesting. I think it's membership in CARICOM is a bit of a legacy, historic. They have a lot in common with most of the Caribbean, and that includes English speaking, unlike most of South America. English speaking, they have a lot of the same products that they're trying to export or grow here. There's just a lot of affinity there that has been there for a very long time. So I think that's part of it. And some people may not know this, but at the moment, President Ali, the president of Guyana, is the chair of CARICOM, which gives him a lot of weight and a lot of leverage. And I'm really glad what Daniel said about talking about opportunities in Guyana are not just for 800,000 people. Opportunities in Guyana are absolutely can be expanded throughout the CARICOM region. You know, we're talking 15 member states, 4 associate members. That's a decent sized market. That's quite a few million people. Of course, the Dominican Republic is not a member. And that's something that could change. They've applied for membership. And so that would be quite a large market as well. But what's really important to remember, especially right now under President Ali's leadership, is that he is positioning Guyana to be the food hub of the Caribbean in terms of food security. It's incredibly important to him, and he's working very hard to establish that. And he talks a lot about not just agriculture, but the entire food supply chain. He is talking about not just producing the crops, but then the manufacturing that adds value, the processing and manufacturing. So he has a lot of irons in the fire there. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for investment in that sector, agrotech, et cetera. And of course, the US government through USAID is also contributing. We're helping them develop 3 of their high value crops: cherries, coconut, and turmeric. And that's just one of many of our agriculture-based USAID projects. So long story short, when you invest in Guyana, you are not just investing in Guyana. You are also opening doors throughout CARICOM, total of 19 countries that are in some way either members or associate members. So I think that's really important. But I will also, to your question, Aida, point out that President Ali is working very hard to strengthen those relationships with South America. Like I said, very good relationship with President Lula in Brazil. I mean, that's obviously an existential, relationship as well. The border between Brazil and Venezuela and Guyana, that is the only way that if Venezuela, for some crazy reason, wanted to invade by ground, they would have to come through Brazil, and Brazil is not going to allow that. That's very, very clear. But it behooves President Ali to continue to strengthen that relationship. They are also in the process of building a road from Guyana into northern Brazil that will effectively reduce transit time for goods coming from northern Brazil to Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean by 5 days. So those relationships are growing every single day. So I wouldn't, while Guyana is a Caribbean country and part of CARICOM, it is still continuing to strengthen its relationships in South America.
Wonderful. And with all this development opportunity and everything that Guyana has, right next door is Suriname, and there are also blocks that international oil companies are going to be exploring. And so, what is the relationship like between Suriname and Guyana? And you mentioned a bridge, or Daniel mentioned a possibility of a bridge. Is there air service? What is that relationship like?
So it's interesting. It's gotten much better. Just last week, the Surinamese president and many members of his cabinet were here in Guyana, and they were specifically talking about this bridge, which will be incredible because right now your only choices are a ferry, a very capricious ferry, or very small planes flying in and out from Georgetown to Paramaribo. So there is a connection there, but this bridge will be an incredibly welcome addition on both sides. And it does look like it's moving forward. So that's a very good thing. Hopefully we can get that UK funding. There are tensions in that relationship because there is also a territorial dispute between Suriname and Guyana. But that has calmed down for the time being. It's sort of taken a backseat to, the obviously bigger elephant in the room, which is Venezuela. But so they have their issues, but I do think they understand that it behooves them to work together. Also, of course, Suriname's oil and gas industry, it's behind Guyana's. It's they're looking at 2027 to start production. So it's kind of interesting. It's like Trinidad passed the baton to Guyana, and Guyana will pass the baton to Suriname because these are, of course, finite resources. But I think they have, and President Ali certainly has recognized that it behooves them to work together, and they're making strides towards that.
Wonderful. Well, we have a few questions, so I'm going to go ahead and read out a few of those. One of them is, Dear Mrs. Ambassador, do you know some details regarding the Sustainability Agricultural Development Program funded by IBD? The second question is regarding firefighting for U.S. standards. Is the U.S. Embassy working with firefighting authorities in Guyana?
For that first question, the IDB program on sustainable agriculture, I don't have a lot of details on that. I'm not sure if Daniel, he probably doesn't, but Daniel knows a lot about a lot, so maybe he doesn't know.
Not on that one specifically, but the good news is that the IDB is right around the corner from us. And so if you're a U.S. company interested in learning more, reach out to us so we can get that information.
Very good.
Yeah, and they have a very dynamic program here, and they're working in a lot of different areas. But what's I think important about the IDB is a lot of the different multinationals can no longer operate here because of its high income status that the World Bank designated for Guyana. So, but IDB can continue to do that. So we really value our relationship with them and their activities here. And they have a wonderful team here on the ground. And then what was, oh my gosh, what was that other question?
There was a question, and we have a lot, so we're gonna try to rush through them. But U.S. Fighting U.S. fires, or rather firefighting standards for the. I don't fully understand it, but is the U.S. Embassy working with the firefighting authorities in Guyana?
Absolutely. I actually know the fire commissioner quite well. And so a couple of different things that we're doing. I'll try to be quick. One is actually ATF, the U.S. Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, is coming to Guyana to conduct training on firefighting and fire prevention. We do know that they, just like the police force and the defense force, they do need some assistance in building capacity. And so ATF is coming later this year to do that. And we also have a U.S. company that has offered spaces at the extremely what's the word I'm looking for? Like a world-class firefighter training that they host in the United States. And it attracts firefighters from all over the United States. They have actually offered seats in that training, which happens 4 times a year, to Guyanese firefighters. So we're in the process of offering that to the Guyanese fire commissioner. And so they will be able to go to the US, get this incredibly important training, bring it back, and build the capacity of their fellow firefighters. So yes, we are working in that space as well, thanks in part to US private sector companies.
So another question is about in the local startup ecosystem. Is there one? Is there opportunity to engage and encourage that in Guyana? And secondly, can you provide any further insights in ways to collaborate to assist the Guyanese in marketing and investment opportunities from Guyana into the US market or globally for those that specialize in that?
So there are a lot of opportunities here for startups. We do it through the U.S. government. We have Academy of Women Entrepreneurs and some some USAID projects. I know that a lot of the business chambers also have startup facilities as part of their operations. But I know Daniel has a lot more information on this. The problem that startups keep facing is access to finance. That's really been a real stumbling block. And we've made that very clear. Everyone is making that very clear to the government. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that. But I think Daniel can probably give you some more details on that.
Thank you, Ambassador. No, it's a very active space here, not only with U.S. NGOs taking part, but also multinational NGOs. There are kind of incubators in Georgetown, Berbice, and I think Linden as well. And when it comes to the access to finance, the government actually has a program with it would be the equivalent of the U.S. Small Business Administration to give guarantees for loans. And so our message is to ramp that up and allow small Guyanese companies to have even more access to programs like that. So, if you're an NGO or even a for-profit entity looking to get in the startup ecosystem, reach out to us. We can plug you in with a lot of the players in that space. Everyone from the Center for Local Business Development to really specialized startup incubators in places like Berbice. But it's an active space.
It is, and
Great.
just want to add super quickly. There is some legislation that we're expecting to be passed by August that will. Collateral is a real issue in trying to get access to finance, and they're passing inshallah, hopefully, legislation that will allow movable assets to be used as collateral for loans. And that's something that they listened to the private sector, they listened to small businesses and startups here, and are making that move. And we're expecting that to happen by August.
There is a question about the demographics of the country. We didn't really touch on that too much. Can you share a bit about that? Because it is a unique mix.
Oh, it's definitely unique. And just, 800,000, of course, is an estimate, but in just 800,000 people, you have an incredible diversity. Guyana likes to talk about its six peoples. Indo-Guyanese, of course, people whose families came as indentured servants from India and South Asia. Afro-Guyanese, who of course came over from the African continent. You have Portuguese Guyanese, quite a few of them here, quite active, especially in the business community, and several ministers who are of Portuguese Guyanese descent. You have, of course, the indigenous people, and you also have Chinese Guyanese and European Guyanese. I always ask, well, Portuguese or European, but they separate those two, and very small number European Guyanese, referring to the Dutch and British who were here previously. So an incredible array, which is why you celebrate all of the holidays. And one beautiful thing about Guyana is people come together to celebrate. They don't care if they're Muslim, they're going to celebrate Christmas. They don't care if they're Hindu, they're going to celebrate Eid. Everyone comes together and celebrates each other's religion, celebrates each other's holidays. And really the diversity is one of the biggest assets here.
That really is interesting. It's amazing. We have about 5 minutes left, and so I'd like for you to offer closing remarks, and you as well, Daniel. And before I hand it to you, I do want everyone to know that we will be announcing our fourth trade mission to Guyana. So anyone on this webinar that would like more information or participate in that, we'd love to have you. And there is a large delegation, I believe, and maybe you can expand on that, coming to the Offshore Technology Conference in Houston in May. And we'll be hosting a number of programs to support them and have an opportunity to meet Guyanese directly. So Daniel, maybe you can say a few words and then we'll end with the ambassador.
That sounds great. Just thank you again to the Bilateral Chamber and the Guyana Task Force for putting this on. It's always great to see so many good collaborators in this space. And as I mentioned in our pre-session, it's so important that we get the word out to even more U.S. companies. One, because there's opportunities here, and two, because it's really a win-win between our two countries and even the region. So I invite all of the U.S. companies on the call to, again, here's the plug, go to trade.gov/Guyana. Learn a little bit more about this marketplace, reach out to your local Export Assistance Center and get involved. And then for those that will be going to OTC, we're working closely with Go Invest as well as the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Guyana always has a very large delegation coming up. This year won't be any different from that. So look forward to partnering again with the Bilateral Chamber and many of you in Houston. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Wonderful. And Ambassador, thank you, by the way, for your insights. We could stay on another hour and listen to everything that's going on. I had a lot of other questions, but thank you again for this time.
Oh, it's absolutely been my pleasure. And I want to echo Daniel's thanks to the Bilateral Chamber. You guys do amazing work. You are, I would say, in my estimation, the most active of all of the chambers and associations. You have shown the love to Guyana, and I'm really hoping that that will continue. We're thrilled that we have another delegation coming out. That's that's music to our ears, because, as Daniel said, we're looking for these win-wins. That's exactly what the U.S. government wants to do. And by helping U.S. companies get a foothold here, that's exactly what we're doing. I think I can't underestimate the importance of Daniel's office. overestimate the importance of Daniel's office. He is providing an incredibly important service. You're talking about a kind of expeditionary market here. It's not, as I mentioned earlier, I did mention quite a few barriers. It is not super, super easy place to break into or to work in. So please use us as your link to Guyana. Daniel knows, the reputable, recognized players and local partners. He knows who to work with and maybe who not to. I just think the opportunity couldn't be bigger right now. And we want US companies to take advantage of that. Every time I hear about, a tender going to another country's company, I get a little jealous. I know that you guys are interested in Guyana. Please don't be scared. Take that next step. Those barriers are not insurmountable. And Daniel has incredibly good relationships within this government, and we can help you when you do run into those. We want to help US businesses here. That is absolutely our priority. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and we will be conducting a webinar with our co-chairs of the Guyana Task Force, and that's with the Private Sector Commission and Go Invest. You'll be able to hear a little bit from the Guyanese perspective to reiterate what the ambassador highlighted. Thank you very much. It's an exciting place. Everybody should sign up for the trade mission because you have to go. You have to actually get on the ground, meet everybody. And there are other questions we didn't get to. I will circulate those to you, Ambassador and Daniel. And we look forward to more of this. So thank you all again from wherever you're logging in. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. You too.